Hey, Hugh, any story that you can think of or
Darwin?
exchange with Darwin that comes to mind?
Not really. Uh,
Yeah,
you have you've pulled out most of the ones I knew, and uh,
yeah,
I spent a lot of time there. But I was always just sort of blown away when I was sitting in his living room.
yeah, yeah. I had to actually when I first started going to those meetings, I went into such a state of bliss
Yeah,
that I never wanted to end. In fact, I was fearful that it might end. And I was be so high. And then the next day I worked at this county nursing home in the infirmary part. And boy, I would crash land into this very dense atmosphere. And I did that about 3 times on the Sunday meetings. And I decided I'm not going up again. I'm going to stay down with ordinary being happy. I called it ordinary being happy. I don't need any more than I don't need bliss. I mean, being happy was fine. And that was much more practical in my, uh, in working at the same time.
Sounds so Chinese.
Yeah. Chop wood and carry water. Yeah. No, it was, those meetings were, I mean, I had to actually work at staying on Earth, so to speak. They were so powerful because they had the longest lasting meetings in the country going back to 1935, I think. The first Baba meetings in this country. And their house was so saturated that it was like being in a lagoon cabin with apple juice and cookies.
yeah, I agree. I agree totally.
Yeah.
And you could
And
talk.
what's that?
And you could talk.
Yeah, and
Lagoon
what was
cabin, you can't talk.
yeah, you could talk. And what was beautiful is you, I just got the impression that this is one of the places that Baba liked to hang out on Earth, even though by then he had dropped his body, uh, just to watch this couple and their adoring love for him. I mean, even though Darwin spoke very, profoundly, insightfully, but they were like a couple of children also with Baba. I mean, Baba's picture was all over the refrigerator, all over the walls. Baba quotes. That thing. I mean, their daughter joined them one time, and she was kind of more of a, very a neatnik. And boy, did she have to battle the two of them, and they won. They kept things as cluttered and Baba full as they had it. They didn't relinquish a single acre of their place. Yeah, I mean they they were with Baba since the 30s. So, and all of the correspondence, the things that Baba gave them, and all that, you just in a small house, they're gonna after 40, 50 years, that's going to start, but your Baba things are going to eventually overwhelm you. you know, the books, the sadras, the letters from the mandali, all the photographs, the albums, everything. It's amazing because Darwin would have been content not saying anything, but we were very inquisitive, so um, we probed him with all sorts of questions about the inner life. I mean, he was, you know, quite complete in himself. So that was a beautiful thing because he wasn't trying to push anything. On the contrary, you had to kind of extract things from him, which is a nice thing today. He wasn't a fire and brimstone uh, minister. Very low key. Rita, anything happening up there? And was it Durham or Raleigh?
I live in Cary, which is just
Oh,
outside of
yeah,
Raleigh, not too far from Chapel Hill.
yeah.
Not too much. Been reading Harry
Oh, yeah,
on your recommendation. I got it on Kindle, $4. Been enjoying that.
yeah.
Enjoying that very much. He was really a character.
He was, sometime I'll tell you about my times with Harry. It was really something. But yeah, I mean, he took that tape recorder into Mondley Hall during his trips, sometimes lasting 4 months. And it's all, these are transcripts of what happened in Mondley Hall with Baba there.
It's really fascinating.
And the beautiful thing I found is that toward the end, he would have these recorded conversations with Erich. And he would ask Erich about what it was like living for Baba. And in fact, one of the beautiful things that I read recently, going back over it, is Harry once at one point said, but you know, what made you stick with Baba all those years? Why did you stay with him? He didn't give you much. He, found fault with you. He was difficult. What made you stay with him? And he gave one answer about light, but that's a different thing. But the other one was, Harry said, he made you feel complete. And Eric said, that's it. He made us feel complete. We were never lonely. We were complete. If someone had come along and offered us God realization, we weren't even drawn to it. We were already complete. Baba, and this is after Baba dropped his body. He gave them the feeling of completeness, that they needed nothing more. Beautiful thing. That's a lovely gift that I think Baba gives. More and more, you feel more complete, and what else do you need?
How's Denny doing?
He's doing good.
Good.
He's been working on this Rudolf Steiner school downtown.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's right. He told me.
Yeah.
We've got a Rudolf Steiner here?
They're just building it.
Yeah. And Baba said he was either a third or a fifth plane saint.
Really?
Ella Winterfeld was related to him and knew him as a child.
Wow.
Through marriage. I think she was his niece through marriage. Yeah.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah. Even though Ella didn't like talking about Germany, but hey, Ann Ross. We got somebody here who actually met Baba. Ann Ross's father was the one you see in England who played the bagpipes for Baba when he first came to England and went out to East Chalicombe. That photograph was of her father. And her mother wrote some very beautiful poems as a young woman to Baba. She met Baba in Harmon-on-Hudson.
She got at Baba's request to stay there at Harmon for a year after he left and everybody left to handle correspondence and Baba's business. That was at his request.
Oh, this is Marion. Is the poet, were you talking about Josephine Ross when you were talking about poetry?
Yeah.
Oh, because that's the book I pulled off the shelf today to read one of her poems.
Oh, well, hey, can you do it now? Read the poem?
You sure? Okay,
Yeah.
it's not very long. Oh, that's
Definitely.
amazing. I love those synchronicities. Yes, because I've been pulling things off my shelf that I haven't looked at in a long time, and I met her years ago, and then when I was at the 69 Darshan, a very dear friend of hers gave me her book, and then I met her. So I love that photograph of Baba by the pyramids. You know that famous photo where he's by the pyramids. So then this poem is Baba Visits Cairo, December 1932.
Marion, wait 1 second. Let's see if we can get Ann. Ann, can you hear us? Nod your head if you hear us.
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, she's going to Marion is going to read a poem from your mom.
Yeah, I heard her say that.
Okay.
Okay,
Hi,
good.
Ann. Yeah, I met your mom. Baba visits Cairo, December 1932. Utter silence holds the desert now. The sun burns down upon a world of sand, where rise the pyramids against the sky, tombs of the kings who ruled this ancient land. How many years since they were laid to rest, beneath these stones men come from far to see. Well, did they build their monument, thereby hoping their names would not forgotten be? What secrets could their mummy lips reveal? What priceless treasures of an ancient lore? How rich in wisdom might the world yet be, could they return and speak to men once more? But now comes one to whom all things are known. More powerful than any king is he, and silently he looks upon the tombs of those great rulers of antiquity. O pharaohs, sleep no more, awake, arise. The King of Kings has come to Egypt land. He walks beside the river that you loved and leaves his footprints in the burning sand. Rejoice, O desert peoples, near and far. This Pharaoh comes to rule from realms above and conquers not with armies and the sword, but by the power of purity and love.
Beautiful.
The end.
Where did you find that?
In the Songs of a Modern Disciple book by
it's
your
in the
mom.
book. Oh, I didn't recognize it. I have to look it up.
I haven't read it in years. I pulled it out today, and I thought, I looked through it, and I thought, gosh, I just have treasures sitting on my bookshelf that I don't often look at, and that's one of them.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. Good. That was nice. And
It's really funny you read that poem because I think in 1975 or 6 I was in the Berkshires as a student intern, and it ended, and I was really sad. And I was walking on the street. I was really, really sad. And I walked into a thrift store and looked at the book bin, and Songs of a Modern Disciple was there for 10 cents.
Oh.
And I knew Baba was. I said, "Thank you, Baba." And I have it. I have it upstairs.
beautiful.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm in Ojai, California, and I just got back from Mayhair Mount for the first time.
Oh,
And it was just beautiful, spacious, pulsating energy.
did you go out there just for that?
I went to visit a friend that was scheduled a long time ago, and part of the purpose was for us to go there.
Oh,
Yes,
how sweet.
Yeah.
that was wonderful. So love from Ojai.
Yeah. What an atmosphere it has. I almost felt like just stopping there and just continue, be a caretaker there and just leave it all behind.
Mm-hmm.
Agnes Barron was the caretaker at Marymount. And, from I think the late 40s, and Baba called her his watchdog. Now, she was like a feisty, opinionated, kind of, slightly, I don't know what you call it, slightly aggressive personality, but she had a heart of gold. But when Baba came there in 1956, when she was driving Baba to LA, back to LA where he was staying, she said, "Baba, some people just don't like me." And she's in the car with Baba, and Baba says, "But I like you." Wow, there you are. And then later on, when she was at LA, she got into kind of an altercation with Ivy Deuce, the head of the Sufis. And, she would kind of lock horns and everything, and very honest and forthright. And so she said to Baba, Ivy wasn't there, she said, "Baba, you say we should love everyone, but I don't love everyone. What are you going to do about that?" And Baba says, Agnes, you may not you may not like everybody, but you love everybody. And Agnes said, I can live with that. But she did love everybody, but she didn't like everybody. But that was just a distinction that Baba made there, because she did have a heart of gold and she did everything for people. She was wonderful. Okay, let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba. Most everybody knows the format. Angela is going to go through the chart and pick somebody to read, or you can pass. And we'll read a section, and then you can ask questions or chime in, or share something how it relates to your own life with Baba. And this next section, Darwin, is going into what Baba says about detachment. And detachment today is not an easy thing. I mean, what's happening in the world, the pandemic, the protests, the environment, the healthcare, there's a lot to disturb our cherished values about, and it's very hard to be detached. In fact, I mean, we are bound to react. I mean, it's impossible to react because of our own scars, our own conditioning and everything. But there is one thing that Darwin talks about and Eric talks about that we can do, is given that we've reacted, we can choose how we want to respond to our reactions, how we react to our reactions. I mean, if we get, if we react and we say, yeah, they shouldn't do that, or on one hand, or if you say, oh, I'm reacting, Baba wouldn't want me to react, I'm not detached, then if any of those things gets you pulled into your reaction. And the thing ideally is if we can watch our reaction as a scientist, you might say, or someone studying, and see our reactions and get some detachment from that. I don't think we're going to be able to stop our reactions. But, Darwin talks about getting some space between your consciousness and your reactions, between your consciousness and this world. And so that we have a little wiggle room. But I don't know if you can kind of clear up all your reactions. I mean, Erich used to say, you might get angry, but don't be angry. You can watch yourself you can watch your anger, but you don't have to be angry. You get some distance from it. So anyway, that's going to be what we're going to read about today.
Yes, page 103 of the book and page 61 of the PDF.
Meher Baba says, serving the master is a joy for the disciple, even when it means an ordeal that tries his body or mind. Service offered under conditions of discomfort or inconvenience is a test of disciples' devotion. The more trying such service becomes, the more welcome it is for the disciple. And as he voluntarily accepts physical and mental suffering in his devoted service to the master, he experiences the bliss of spiritual fulfillment. This is because this is the way of effacing the self, getting rid of self. We are forgetting ourselves as we serve him. The hardships associated with such service are not suffering, but joy, because of our love for the master. In true love, we function at the level of the spirit. And at the level of the spirit, we experience only fulfillment, because love is a giving, and fulfillment comes from this giving. Through love and service, we are penetrating to the level of the spirit. The hard shell of the ego begins to give way, and the divine qualities the master represents begin to flow through.
I'll mention one thing myself is I like the fact that he says voluntary. So when it's voluntary, you can't be a victim. It's your choice. We're not being recruited into something against our will.
What about the line, the more trying such service becomes, the more welcome it is for the disciple?
Yeah.
Who's saying that?
Yeah. Yeah. I always got the impression the Mandali, they wanted to do everything they could do with their body before they had to let go of it. They were willing to push it to the limits, not on just their physical body, their emotional body, their mental body. They pushed everything for him. Eric used to say, live your life to such an extent that when you depart from the stage of this world, Baba gives you a standing ovation.
And Prakash, go ahead.
Yeah, just wondering, are we talking about serving the master in the physical sense, being in his physical presence, or doing any work that is related to Baba? Is that also term service in this particular context, the way Darwin is trying to tell us? It's a question.
Yeah.
So I've sort of given up on the whole idea of service other than loving more, whatever it is. So the more anytime I'm suffering, I'm sort of thinking, okay, what do I need to love more? And just that's the work. And for me, as soon as I start trying to love more, it sort of heals whatever was going wrong. You know, I mean, it's like, it could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be, you know, a personal feeling that I'm having. Whatever it is, I just try to deal with it by loving more and taking a walk. That's the other one.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we've been there. We've taken a lot of walks. Yeah, going to what Prakash said, no, Baba's, this doesn't refer just to him being physically on earth. That service goes on. So any little thing that we can do for him, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be externally with Baba's name on it, you know. You know, there are many different ways of serving that might not even be recognized as service. But what Baba, beautiful thing Baba said, one of my favorite lines, whatever you do for me is done by me. And another line, whatever you do with love has perfect results. Those are two great assurances from Baba.
Chapter 19, the fruits of our labor. In non-duality, there is freedom from limitation as well as the knowledge and appreciation of things as they are. Meher Baba. When we can stand back and see life as a pack of gross level earth games, we will decide to rise above it into a state of perception rather than continue to play those games. We realize that we can remain free instead of dwelling on gross level games. Withdraw your need for input from Maya and put all your focus on Meher Baba. He is more eager for this than we are. Surrender the limited in favor of the unlimited as Baba says. Give the false to him and upgrade to the truth. Intensify your faith and conviction. Sow the seeds of liberation. The prerequisite for lasting happiness. Hope and disappointment are two sides of the same coin. Baba stresses the importance of detachment based on understanding, rather than detachment that is merely a reaction to experiences of the opposites. He says, the steadiness and equanimity that remain unaffected by any opposites is possible only through complete detachment, which is an essential condition of lasting and true happiness. The individual who has complete detachment is not at the mercy of the opposites of experience, and being free from the thraldom of all desires, he no longer creates his own suffering. This means that a lasting internal detachment is a prerequisite for lasting happiness. Your consciousness can become free to turn away from the gross level and turn toward the spiritual, toward the reality within. Become a detached witness. Do not make the ego self out to be an obstacle. I would just say one thing quickly. As I read that first sentence of the second section there, the prerequisite for lasting happiness, what we were talking about before we started, what Jeff mentioned about the difficulties of our times and how difficult detachment is and so on, that just popped right before me, as I'm sure it did for others. And if we don't have two sides of the same coin going on right now in this country, I don't know what it is. But so great and helpful that Baba says you just have to learn that and perceive it and deal with it from this place of further detachment, deeper detachment, and start making one's orientation toward the inner and not the outer. Difficult, very difficult.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
I just want to ditto what Dan just said, difficult, very difficult. And I just wondered if anyone had personal examples of where they've done that. I mean, you know, like if you're thinking that a loved one could be facing death or just other things not quite as drastic, but what is the process of that? I mean, so if we're not reacting, if we're detached, and I understand about not wanting to collapse into the you know, hope and despair kind of thing, but how do people actually in real life accomplish this and still stay loving and compassionate?
Yeah, very good question.
Hi, this is Marion. I have a brief comment. It's very personal, since you were asking about that, Jane. And that is, I was looked at as Mayor Baba when in human form as an example. He played ball, he played marbles, he did all kinds of things, you know, that he asked people to dance and sing for him and tell jokes. And so what I call it my toolbox. And so no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm thinking, and sometimes I'm in great pain, and I remember what he said, and I paraphrase when he said the most direct access to the divine is nature and the arts. And that is a huge, huge spectrum. And so when I'm out, I'm in New York City and I go by the tree pits. And I know because the neuroscientist said I can reprogram my amygdala fight or flight brain up into the cerebral cortex of happiness by counting to 17 or 20. So I walk down down New York City streets and I just stop and breathe and do my counting to 17, and I don't wait until I feel better. I do it then. And I bring my yo-yo with me, and it keeps me in the moment. It's like I have two sides of the coin, the pain and the pleasure. And as Baba says in the discourses, they have to be held equally to come together as the entree to the unitive state. So I have my harmonica to play Begin the Begin as I'm walking down the street. And so this is my way. It's so personal. Everybody has their own. So I think the sharing can spark something in somebody else, and it has with me. And so that's my sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marion. That's great. Oh, we all have these gimmicks that work, ways that work.
Yeah, there's sides of the same coin, but the coin is spinning. Baba's spinning the coin. You know, like to my way of looking out and what's going on, he's definitely spinning. I mean, if we have to go from rational thinking to intuitive, we have to give up so much. I mean, you know, we've just been thinking ourselves to death. Now we have to do something else, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, so true.
So he says about being detached, and I'm thinking, yeah, for me, I mean, it's like, what do I have to be detached from? And for me, especially growing up kind of intellectual and stuff, I had to be detached from thinking I could have the answers. And I have to be detached from thinking I'm going to control the results. And, you know, as long as I'm able to let those go, then I'm detached. And it's like, then I'm in the moment and I can just be happy. I can greet people. I can be warm and honestly friendly because I'm not looking for them to do something that's going to prove to my ego that I did something, you know? And so it's like I can just, I don't know, somehow that takes that burden off me if I remember that I need to be detached from all the results.
Yeah. Anyone else? Janet, can you ask your question again? We got some experts here.
So my question was, is that, you know, when we're facing really difficult circumstances, say someone that you love maybe is hanging in the balance of their life and this kind of thing. And I understand what Becky just said about being, not having a preference either way about things. But so my question was, what are some ways that people actually find in real life that they use to maintain that detachment when they're faced with really difficult circumstances and not collapsing into one side of the coin or the other?
Yeah.
You know, I think the fact that we have Baba is huge. I mean, you know, I guess it was 13 years ago I lost my husband to a really crazy disease. And I mean, the both of us just, you know, had Baba, and it just makes a huge difference. And I mean, you know, I think everybody is faced with difficulties in life, and you just, I mean, I would have his care practitioners just show him a picture of Baba, you know, if I wasn't there, and it would just change his demeanor. And, you know, the fact that we have that, and then it's your perception in life. How are we perceiving, you know, everything that's going on now? And in the very beginning, Baba talked about that it's all a game. So we can just go, oh yeah, and just remember that. Yeah, it is just a game, and just, and you know, really, you know, accept what's happening. And I mean, I just think love has a lot to do with it too. You just have to put love into everything, as I think Rebecca said in the very beginning. And you just, everybody has inner strength because we have Baba.
Beautiful. Yeah. I know we have our, we have ideas of how life should be, and then they just get violated by life itself. So what has to be let go of? How life should be, or let go of that, or try to change life. Well, we're not going to be able to change life. I remember I'll just tell you about Darwin. In the latter years, a number of used to be up with Darwin and, helping out. And he was 95 or something like that. And he would from time to time go into a state of absorption, a deep state of absorption. And we would all quiet down and let him have that space there. But at one point, he went into one of these deep states of absorption, and I was sitting with him in the kitchen, the table there, and I looked over and I said, Darwin, what are you doing in there? And he kind of chuckled and said, I'm trying to dissolve all standpoints. Here, I'm trying to dissolve all standpoints. Those standpoints of good and bad, right and wrong, loving, unloving, spiritual, unspiritual, make it difficult to accept life as it is. And the love that is really loving wisdom behind all of life. But here he is at the end of his life. He's trying to dissolve those standpoints, I'm sure at a very refined level. So those standpoints get us into trouble because this shouldn't be happening, that shouldn't be, they shouldn't be, and it is happening. That's the crazy thing about it.
So just simply to say that for me, yes, love is the answer. And what I do, I seek to focus outward into service. Service takes me out of attachment to my point of view and takes me out of so much self-focus. So love and service, that's my prescription. Thank you.
Good. That's the person you want, living next door.
I always go back to Baba said it was critical. Mani was telling the story. He said Baba said it was critical, so critical, the fate of the world. And so he said, I've done the work 100% to my satisfaction. So, the stuff that is going on with the election and all that, it's wow. I mean, what a situation. It's like the kids are underneath the table. You tell them, don't do that. When you get out from underneath that, you're going to hurt yourself. All of a sudden, mommy, daddy, it's all right. You come out this way. And all of a sudden, they got to squeeze out of another place. It's really tough, and they might scratch themselves. Well, that's the only way out, and it's bad. But the master said, this has got to be the way, because otherwise there was no other way out. So I did it, and you're just going to have to, he didn't tell us to suck it up, but he did tell Mira to be brave, so I guess we could do the same thing. He said, this is the way it is. So I hold my breath when I see this. I can't believe this is going on. This is amazing. Yeah. That's what I have to say.
Very intense reactions that we have to deal with today. Probably the greatest that we are going to have in decades. Yeah.
Anne, go ahead.
Regarding what's going on now, I think it's a gift, but Baba lets me look at it in a really positive way, because he pointed out that destruction has to come before creation. And he's destroying all of the things that we've held on to, that we have assumed were good, and we are beginning to find they're rotten in the basement. The foundation is no good. The way people relate to one another, the economy, education, business, it all has to come down so he can build up, create this new wonderful world. And we get to be alive to witness it and to go through it. And to me, that's really exciting. And I know full well that he's doing what he has to do to get us beyond this crap that we've been living in that we didn't even know we were in. So I see it as really positive.
Uh-huh. And yeah, we all hope for that.
Can I say something while we're unmuted?
Yeah.
And you know, so if Baba really did write this whole book already and it's all done, and he did the 100% thing and we're living through it, part of what we're going through is our reactions. I mean, that's part of it. And, you know, it's like just totally paradoxical that we have free will and we can choose our attitudes and all that, and we have to get to acceptance, but that's already all done. And if we're suffering, it's because that's what we need to go through to get to the point where we can stop reacting and being attached. So it's all okay.
Yeah.
It hurts sometimes a lot.
Well, we got a camp over here that says it's okay, and then a whole bunch of people over here say it's not okay.
Well, it's not okay, but that's got to be okay too.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's the it's not okay, and it has to be okay that it's not okay.
You know, that last sentence there where Darwin says, become a detached witness. Do not make the ego self out to be an obstacle. I mean, I hear a lot of people say, man, I'm having to deal with my ego and I have to fight my ego and try to suppress it and everything. But here's something I was from a Sufi that I thought you might enjoy. He said the lower self or ego is like a thief who sneaks into your house at night to steal whatever is valuable and worthwhile. You cannot fight this thief directly, the ego directly, because it will mirror whatever force you bring against it. If you have a gun, the thief will have a gun. If you have a knife, the thief will have a knife as well. To struggle with the thief is to invite disaster. So what can you do? The only practical solution is to turn on the light. The thief who is a coward at heart will then run out. How do you turn on the light? Through the practice of remembrance, awareness, and heedfulness of the beloved. So you basically what Darwin say, you got to just starve the ego by not feeding it. Just don't feed it, even with attention.
So after this little conversation, Andrew Els gave me this for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and it says, life sentence you have to live. It's Baba being the judge. You can see the little baby down the bottom, that's me. He says, Baba has to be life sentence you have to live.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to, it'll sound like it's not being sensitive to the terrible suffering that is going on. But I guess from Baba's viewpoint, he's looking at this as the play, as the Leela, as when we have a kid come by that's 5 years old and was upset about this, that, or the other thing, and we empathize and but we know it's, for the kid, it's the end of the world. But for us, it's not. And I don't feel that way, but I imagine I try and sometimes say, well, I guess from another viewpoint, Baba's viewpoint, it's, you know, it seems really bad. Like he said, this is a dream, and you say, oh, I feel awake, and then he said, someone here said, and the quote is, well, Baba said, well, you'd say that if you were in the dream, right? In your dream, you'd say the same thing. So it is beyond comprehension, and that's where the other thing about Baba saying 100% comes into play. As soon as whatever happened to me to become a Baba lover happened to me, it was so intense that Baba could say, the moon is made of green cheese, and I'd say, the moon is made of green cheese. So that happens to Baba lovers, I guess, more because of what happened to make us Baba lovers, where it's a little easier than the rest of the world maybe to accept what is going on. Even though it is difficult for us, it's easier than maybe the rest of others. I don't think I'm making a judgment, but I hope I'm not. Thank you.
And Peter Salamosi?
Yeah, hi. I just got on the line a short time ago. I was having a tough time getting on. When I heard the lady talking about how do you get alleviated of the suffering, what came to my mind is what has to happen for someone to have a paradigm change.
Okay.
And it's let's just say when I've gone into a situation of extreme pain, what had to happen, what I chose to do is get into a system or some kind of program. It usually was long, and it's an intensive immersion into a different way of thought. And one time, the journey lasted about 1.5 years in order to be purged of a defective character that caused tremendous suffering. And another time, it also was about 1 year to 1.5 years. That to me, all the answers that I've heard so far are all true. It just happens, I think a lot of it is determined by how much we can drench and absorb ourselves in the answer. I remember one time there was, I think Norman Vincent Peale, in one of his great books, talked about how do you change your mind. He took a verse from the Bible and he said, distill this discourse or this teaching like a pill in the brain and just let it absolve in the brain or dissolve in the brain. And I remember what I did was, I'm not going to go to the Bible, but I'm going to go to one of Baba's teachings. And I'm going to immerse myself in it. I'm going to meditate in it. I'll sit, for maybe 20 minutes and just say it over and over again for it to dissolve in my brain. So to me, the answers, I can say, trust Mayor Baba or just give it to Baba. But how long and how intense do I need to do that in order to create the paradigm change to get the relief? I seem to think that the answer is do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to get the desired effect. And sometimes it takes a system and immerse oneself in a system until the paradigm change is there. How do we know? Because then the suffering will be alleviated. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And just to repeat what I've said in the past, Erich used to say about spiritual progress, he said it's very, 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 very gradual. 4 varies. So it's not a weekend seminar that's going to do it. It's very slow, but it's it's engaging to see it happen though.
Peter just reminded me of one of the most difficult periods that I went through. I was in Mehrabad, and it was after I'd had an operation, and I got quite sick with dysentery, amoebic dysentery, and I couldn't leave my room. And, so I was feeling, sort of that seclusion kind of thing. And it was like, what am I going to do with my time? Well, I had Baba's discourses with me actually. And every day I would just put my finger on some paragraph in the discourses and copy it onto a little card and think about that one card, and in my journal try to write about it or deal with it in some way to take it inside me. And then I had this whole stack of cards, and finally I tried to organize the cards into some kind of, you know, how do I understand all this? You know, I mean, it just became this daily work that I could do when I couldn't do anything. And I have used those cards many times since then. I think Baba's words are, you know, you just don't know. They're beyond, of course.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, to try to apprehend the spirit with the mind is futile because it is much too fine. But if one has enough inner detachment from the world, one can become aware of the spirit and become aware that one is living at the level of the spirit. Meher Baba made it possible for us to be conscious of different levels of the spirit when we were with him. For example, when I was with Baba very closely in 1952 in Scarsdale, New York, he put me in a state of inner detached perception. I found myself floating free, sort of detached from the physical and not encumbered by anything gross, yet aware of everything going on and able to function very adequately and helpfully. I was experiencing a sense of complete inner detachment. It was as if an instrument that was unnecessary had been taken out of a mechanism. This is one of the problems with our spiritual unfoldment. We think we need all these things. We think we need our minds. We think we need our desires. As we gradually let go of them, we find that there is a clearing that takes place within our consciousness. And we can go to the level of detached perception. Our heart quality keeps it from becoming mental transcendentalism. The degree of our awareness of the spirit when we were with Baba would vary from time to time. On several occasions, I have been with Baba when it seemed as though everyone around him was magically transported to a different realm. We would find ourselves swimming in a sea of love, of light, and indescribable beauty. And to some extent, we would experience what Meher Baba calls objectless awareness. Baba goes into an explanation of objectless awareness in the discourse, God in the Individual, where he explains in detail the conquest of the conscious over the unconscious. Apparently, from what Baba says, we are so attached to objects that we identify ourselves with these objects. But the ultimate realization is when we get free of objects and experience objectless awareness. This apparent loss of everything we had previously taken to be meaningful is compensated by divine bliss.
I mean, this is incredible what the insights that he just weaves into these paragraphs.
Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, I you know, in reading this, I was just feeling really deep down what I was, you know, speaking to. And one of the things that I've discovered about my life, especially these days with the apparently claustrophobic feeling that I'm sure everyone has, regardless of whether you're inside the house or outside the house, is the quietness of everything. Even today, when I was out on the golf course or going to or going from, there was hardly any noise that I, would normally sort of react to, in the sense of, well, I hear that bus coming, or this hot rod is zooming down the highway, or things like that. And the people were moving much slower than they normally, in my experience, would notice. So maybe there is, maybe this virus has done that to people unconsciously, and now they're consciously reacting to it by just slowing down. So that's where I want to go in there.
Yeah, certainly the case.
So Cindy James says in chat, the apparent loss of everything we had previously taken to be meaningful is compensated by divine bliss. Divine bliss is definitely worth it, as she says. Yeah, much agreed there.
Even joy would be great. Forget about the bliss. I'll take joy. One thing that Darwin would kind of bring home is, see, we have this consciousness, and the consciousness is stuck with looking through the lens of the mind. But it's possible to uncouple consciousness from the mind and then just see with awareness, and then you can kind of come closer to seeing the spirit, the level of the spirit. But somehow the mind and the consciousness have been so welded together for eons of time that it's hard to break that, uncouple those things, and see through awareness itself, which is refined, and it has the refinement. And even the emotions and feelings and desires are another lens that we get stuck with looking through. And it's possible to uncouple from that. And in a way, that's what Darwin was saying, is uncoupling even from thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And then you can actually, your consciousness can move into being aware of the realm of the spirit. And that's, that whole process is the spiritual journey that Bob has got us on. But, the mind looks down at the feelings from the head, and it doesn't go, it can't get down there unless there's something that hurts the heart very much, and then they leave the mind behind, and the awareness comes down and becomes aware of the feeling level. So that there's a whole dynamics, inner dynamics that Darwin would talk about.
Well, Jeff, that's beautiful. That was bringing up something in me. I heard somebody a while ago say that the mind and the emotions are kind of like the score to the movie of Maya. And because of what's going on in the mind and the human reactions and the emotions, that's the music, the score that makes Maya seem real. And the rest of the analogy is that when you go to a movie, this person was talking about, if you've ever seen a movie without the music playing, the score, it's like nothing. And you realize, like, oh my God, the music is what makes it seem real. And you don't realize it until it's not there. But that was a neat analogy that they drew about how when the mind stuff isn't there and all the emotional reactions aren't there, it's like unplugging the sound producer on that score, and then you're just like, oh my God, like that fear, all that stuff wasn't even real. It was just this kind of just thing playing in the background that made the whole Maya seem real. That's what was making the smoke and mirrors. So Yeah, it was neat. The whole time you were talking about it, that whole visual was coming back.
Yeah, good. No, very good analogy. And but then adding to that, um, love will actually go in and put all the colors in the black and white film eventually.
Almost like replacing that score that wasn't the real one playing with the one that should have been there.
Yeah, yeah. Love will give it all meaning and make the realness be worthwhile. Yeah.
I just wanted to add quickly, and humor helps. Like you can try to run your movies backwards sometimes when they're not, you know, they look like they're kind of, and also speed them up and slow them down. And that'll, you know, it's like you'll start laughing stuff that's happening.
Yeah, now there at the end there he uses the term objectless awareness. Anybody have give us a sense of that? Objectless awareness. Well, I mean, what how does that phrase feel inside of you?
It seems like you could observe then, you know, instead of in our minds, we name things. And if we took away the naming, we wouldn't have any separation from those things. We would just be floating in our existence. It seems like objectless awareness would be kind of like that.
Yeah, it's not it's not a detach. I mean, it's not a separation. Yeah, it's you really sink into the being of everything.
Just reduce your desires. It becomes quite apparent that everything's changing. Nothing remains the same at all, and it's all a big illusion. Seriously. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
You say that now at your age, you know, but when you were 22.
Oh, I'm really not looking forward to going through this again.
Yeah, I was thinking this after last week too, the thing, you know, about loving, how to love God, and one of the statements is to be happy in the happiness of others and to suffer in the sufferings of others. And so I'm not quite, I don't know how to put both of those things on the same track of what we're talking about, you know, of what Darwin's talking about here, and objectless awareness and desirelessness, and all of this is happening, and the movie without the sound, but like what Jeff said, you put love into that movie, and then you've got the color instead of the black and white, and so when we love, then we are able to be happy in the happiness of others and suffer in the sufferings of others. And I just wonder about that whole thought of bliss, and I mean the idea of bliss includes both that happiness and that suffering. So it isn't what my thinking is, what my thinking says happiness is or whatever is it's bigger than what I have thought it, I think. I mean, I'm asking this and I'm stating both at the same time. Is it bigger than what I have thought it? Because it includes, it isn't delusional in the sense that we're not, you know, I mean, like how was Baba during World War II and all what was happening to, you know, for example, to the Jews and to a lot of other people, the suffering that was happening. And he was going madly around India and meeting with the Musts. I mean, I shouldn't madly, I'm not meaning it in a derogatory sense, of course, but he was very focused on that. And so where you do what you can do and yet let life happen somehow. And even if that means that inside you, you're having to feel the suffering of those around you. So it isn't like being able to skirt that. I mean, this is, again, is a question. I mean, this is sort of my interpretation. And I just am wondering what your response is to that.
Beautiful, beautiful thing to bring up.
I think, Janet, you had a bingo there, hitting on the head by saying doing what you can do. Because, you know, in all these themes, I think I was thinking about detachment and service and objectiveless awareness. It's all sort of comes together if you can see Baba as you, like Baba as Heidi doing this or being in this situation, and somehow it kind of clears the air and balances out being detached with heart and not misinterpreting detachment from a situation with withholding service or giving. I think Baba has a handle on it. It's difficult to allow that to happen and have Baba totally with you and through you as you. But I think if you think about it that way, it does help inch by inch, you know, to get there. And I love what you said, Jeff. I've been thinking about what Eric said about you can get angry. And that means to me, you can be transparent in a situation, be natural, as Baba said, but you can get angry, but not be angry. So, you know, hold it, like be in the present, fully respond to it, and then get back to, you know, then be who you are. And I had a beautiful experience with this because I'm in a service situation with my sibling that can get a little, hairy sometimes, you know, what can I give without overgiving and creating, without being manipulated and getting angry, and how can I offer service and at the same time provide an opportunity for her to be of service. You know, Baba keeps telling me that.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, to have her put some effort in, it's essential for living, you know, and working with a person that doesn't want to do anything, withholding everything. So inch by inch, so it was frustrating. But anyway, just having Baba be the center of it and being aware of what was really going on. And at one point, you know, I said to her, I was frustrated, but I twisted it around and I said to her, you know, I really don't want to do all of this for you. You should be doing some of it for yourself. But Baba told me to do this particular thing for you. It was food shopping. And I said, that's what Baba told me to do. And she looked at me because she knows Baba and she has a love-hate relationship with Baba, which is great. It's a relationship. I'm happy with it. And she looked at me and she said, okay, you're right. I understand that. I said, great. So, you know, bringing Baba in the picture helped me, just putting him right on the table, and I think helped her too.
Yeah, beautiful, Heidi. No, these are very touching things that you all bring up. Janet, it's like you say, it's very hard to fuse all these things together, to be loving and caring of others, to suffer and react, at the same time have a detachment, feel complete. All of these things Baba eventually fuses them all together, and we're actually able to do the impossible, I think. And I said earlier, you know, but before most of you were here, but one of the things that Harry Kenmore asked Eric, you know, you Mandali stayed with Baba all these years. You know, what made you stay with him? You know, he made you suffer. He didn't give you much food. He didn't get sleep. You were, you know, he could never do anything right. What kept you with him? And And then Harry said, "You felt complete, didn't you?" And Eric said, "Yes." You know, we got a feeling of completeness around Baba. Whether we were in suffering or whether we were having a good time, we felt he gave us a feeling of completeness. To the extent, Eric said, that if someone came along and offered them God realization, they're not interested. They're already complete. They felt complete. They didn't need anything. They didn't feel lonely, nothing like that. So to bring off that completeness when you're having negative reactions, they certainly had negative reactions. They had all the whole gamut of emotions they had. But in and behind it, they inherited from Baba a feeling of completeness. You know, that somehow fuses all of this that we're talking about together into kind of a oneness. I don't know how he does it. Alchemy.
And Jack?
One of Eric's statements really blew my mind when he said, after Baba passed, that he'd be willing to spend 1,000,000 lifetimes if he knew he was going to be with them again.
Yeah. He'd come back, he said, even as a mangy dog, just to be with Baba again. Or just come back again and again just to comb his hair one last time.
We have become deeply habituated to wanting things in both the outer and inner worlds because of a deep inner sense of incompleteness. Wanting is an unconscious statement that says, "I want because I do not have." As it turns out, this is a refutation of the truth of our own eternal being. We are indeed already complete, but we are not aware of this all-important fact. Through his grace, Meher Baba restores our wholeness. He does this by taking away our delusive sense of incompleteness by occasionally lifting the many-layered veil within, so that we experience our own completeness. In order to augment this lifting of the veil within, he asks us to stop wanting, knowing that when we consciously stop wanting, it becomes possible for us to discern what we already have. Sometimes out of compassion for us and our struggles, purely out of his own sweet grace, he reveals to us that he is indeed our divine shepherd, and that we are completely in his most loving care, forever safe within the timeless security of his eternal being. One time, Baba gave me an experience of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. It had occurred to me probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's kind of strange. It took so many years to get this little insight that gratitude is the complete antithesis of wanting. And that's why that's so valuable to, you know, even each day to, you know, to recite prayers or affirmations of the gratitude for the things you have. And I've never had that as a practice, and I just saw it as like, oh yeah, it's nice affirmations, but I didn't really see it as any like really deep like core practice or anything. And it's from these meetings it clicked, and it was like, oh my God, that's why it's so important. It's the complete opposite of wanting and desire, because gratitude is affirming what you already have, that you're happy about, that you're content in your life, that you have these things. And I've been trying to do it in the morning when I do some of my morning practices. I mean, just for the simplest things like at home and having good food each day and having family and friends. And it's so amazing how after you run through a gratitude prayer, even however short, you do feel that completeness for a little bit. You're like, oh my God, it's, you know, God has given all these wonderful things that, you know, and then the mind comes in later on. But anyways, I just wanted to share that. I didn't realize how important gratitude was.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an antidote to wanting. And a lot of Baba people, I find that now after many years with Baba, are turning to gratitude as just a natural sentiment that has begun to spring up naturally in their heart. A feeling of gratitude of what Baba has done all these years for us.
Yes, I guess I'm just repeating what they said, but the two lines that stood out for me is wanting is an unconscious statement that says, I want because I do not have. As it turns out, this is a refutation of the truth of our own eternal being. And then the other statement that I have questions about actually is when Baba does this by occasionally lifting the many-layered veil within so that we experience our own completeness. And I was wondering what people have experienced by this, or if anyone has experienced the lifting of the many-layered veil within and has that sense of completeness through that experience. I can't think, I'm trying to think of a time for myself, and off the top of my head, I can't. Maybe I have one, but I was just curious if anybody else had some experience.
I just would comment that for me, it must be when Baba reveals himself to attract you. When I became a Baba lover, that is one time I could definitely say. And then I stumbled along after that and said, well, I know it's him. So what did he say? What did he do? What am I going to do now? I know I did that wrong. I screwed that up. And okay, Baba. It's like that. When you come to Baba, that's one time. I think maybe all of us could maybe say that.
Yeah, and you had a very powerful 4-hour period, right? Where he swept you completely out of Res Spagnolio.
I was out of it, but it seemed like, I don't know how long it was for me, but when I came back, I was still at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee in front of me. So you don't know. It was just, you know, it was there, it was nothing, and it was nice. And I said it was him. It's him. I heard Baba's name. For those that don't know, I heard Mir Baba's name. And then when I heard his name, I felt this expansion and everything went away. And I went out and out and out and expanded, and finally it stopped. And I said, it's him. And then back in, and I was at the table again. And from then on, so that's my one time I could say that he did something. And I've been following him for, it's almost 40 years now coming up.
Beautiful.
J.
Was
Bob.
your coffee still hot?
Yes, because I was on I couldn't have been away long. It's like one of these stories.
So my most profound conscious experience with God still to this day happened in high school for me. And God gave me this awakening. It kept unfolding over about the course of a year, maybe, kept increasing. And he would, this was before knowing consciously it was Baba. Several years later, Baba let me know it was him. But God would bubble up, I guess, my sanskaras, like one limiting impression at a time that I had to wrestle with the best I could, face it straight on. And then he would just take it from me when I guess I wrestled enough, and I knew it was a gift. And this went on day after day after day. And eventually I started to experience my eyesight actually becoming more acute, what I saw around me being more clear, calm, slowed down. My mind was slowing down. And this kept on, and eventually, and God let me know his name was God during this time, but eventually he said to me, I am peeling veils of illusion from in front of your eyes. And that was a perfect description for what was happening.
Beautiful. Yeah, wow. We need the more, let's hope it happens to everybody. We'll have a different world.
Can I add, I've been chasing back after it almost 50 years. So.
For me, I find that Baba shows me things. I mean, it's not all the time. But almost every time I've gone to India, there's been some, big, I would say, veils lifting, awareness, and even recently, I woke up and he'd shown me some big piece of information about myself that I didn't realize. And so, I guess they're when Baba wants to deliver them. One example I can give from India was that, I think this was 2012, it was my first time in India. And I'd already been a professional singer for many years. And what happened was it's like he took me through layers of awareness. One day he said, say my name all day long. The next day, he said, your heart is closed, and take my name. And I could feel him coursing through my veins, literally like love coursing through my veins. And then I get in the samadhi and I got really angry about something. And, so I was shown stuff. But one of the things that I was shown about myself as a singer, which I had never known or seen, he showed me very clearly what the sound was like when I was in my heart and what the sound was like when I was in my head, and how connected and beautiful and resonant it was when I was in my heart, and how that sound just went away when I was in my head. And I'd recorded, I never heard anything like that before. And it was clear, and he kept showing it to me, and it was like, wow. So I think that was definitely a lifting of veils, So I think it happens, it's not just once for me, it's many times, but it's little pieces, and sometimes they feel really big. And when I've heard other people talk about, what they're getting from India, or Jeff, when you've talked about, I understood something all of a sudden, or I saw it, I would say that's the lifting of the veils. So it's one of the reasons I love talking to people about their pilgrimages. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you, Larice. Yeah. I like that we get these little flashes of insight that are so helpful, and where a veil, something we just hadn't seen before, is suddenly clear before our consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, very helpful. And Ruth?
I guess what I'd like to share is a dream that I had years ago about St. Francis. And I was with a group of people, and we were walking through this garden. And it was an old garden, and it was overgrown. And there was a statue, but it almost looked like it was melted. You couldn't make out anything about it. The form was there, but it was formless in a way. And we went through there to another garden, and this garden was just a little bit more tended. But again, it was kind of wild. We finally evolved into this beautiful garden that was tended well. And there was this statue, and it was St. Francis. And I said to everybody, oh, it's St. Francis. And we walked up, and at the base of the statue was a prayer, or some kind, it was a prayer, my guess. And it began with oh Provartigar, oh. So I started to read the prayer. And as I did, the statue started to breathe. And I realized that he was alive. And I stepped back and he stepped down. And I said, St. Francis, may I have your blessing? And he said, no, I'm here to work. Let's go. And so he took me, and all day long we dug in the dirt. I'm thinking of Jeff as I'm telling this because he's such a gardener. Dug in the dirt, and we planted things and patted the ground. And as we were doing this, he was telling me things. I could never tell you what he told me. It was a heart-to-heart transmission. It was something that had to do with the dirt. It was something that had to do with earth and growth. And we did this all day. And then when we got all done, now this is the part where the veil lifted. We get all done, and he says to me, now you can have my blessing. And like a good Catholic girl, I went to go down on my knees, and he looked at me, and he smiled with this beautiful smile that was like, oh, you poor thing, like, oh, poor child, and I tried to get down on my knees, and his blessing just washed over me, just washed through me, and I felt like I melted. I mean, I never really got to my knees. I was just a puddle. He just disintegrated whatever I am. And of course I woke up. But that was the time where I really felt in a dream. I've had dreams of Baba too, but that one came to mind. And it was just that he disintegrated me. And, but not until after we worked. Say Bob.
Yeah, that was great. Wow. One of my life's heroes, St. Francis. When they talk about completeness, I was immediately drawn back to the first time I walked from the to Marizot along that whole area. Whatever road it is called. That just put the sign on the tree saying Marizot entrance. And when I got up to the old original gate there, and put my hand on the gate, still being outside, and saw the collection of the Mandalay outside the Mandalay Hall, it was a feeling of finally coming home. And after a journey of maybe tens of thousands of lifetimes, as far as I knew, I don't know, but it felt that way. And there was no sense of, who are you or what are you doing here? It was just like, I just floated in amongst, like I had always been there. And that completeness of finally come home just washed through me. And it's never changed. Never changed.
I'm sure that all of us experience this completeness at some point or another, and maybe many times. To me, the best way to express that is a complete state of not wanting anything. No, not even God realization, nothing. It's a complete state of just being. And that's what I experienced.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting that Darwin says here that to augment that feeling of, to augment the multiple veils lifting by Baba, he's saying that we should try to not want things. And that's what will help that to be augmented. I never thought of it that way, but that's such a great, way to put it. I didn't realize that not wanting will actually help Baba to augment that. But I'm sure all of us experienced a similar thing. I actually had that kind of a thing just this morning where I was feeling, I was basically being bothered by many things. And there was this time, for a very brief time, where Baba lifted all the veils that were there. And I actually questioned myself, is this thing bothering me now? And none of it really bothered, and there was nothing I wanted in that state. Not even, if Baba came and asked, what do you want? I would say nothing. It was just a state of being. But it was such a short time, it doesn't last for too long. But yeah, that's all.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's like moving from the state of doing, the world of doing, into the world of being. Once you kind of step out of the world of doing, you got to do, into being, then there isn't that urgency always kind of pressing. Yeah. And I've said this many times on here, but Darwin used to say, sooner or later, you discover you're nobody, and that is not an unhappy discovery. You don't have to be a spiritual somebody. You don't have to be a worldly somebody. You are just content with being nobody. Great state. A complete nobody.
Yeah, that state of being. I have experienced that when I'm in the midst of a piece of work, like if I'm writing and I'm 100% into the writing, and I totally lose a sense of who I am, where I am, whatever. I mean, that happened to me when I was doing my dissertation and had long periods of time when I was writing. And one time it was so long that I actually heard something that I would describe as celestial music. I've never had it happen before, thank God, because it scared, I mean, it's kind of scary to think of, but I think when you're in the middle of, say, any kind of artistic work or work that you are committed to, that you can have this feeling of isness, of being, and that's when your work flows most smoothly. And when you're in that state, you're also detached from do this, do that, do this, because you're in the state of just flow. Isness, whatever you are in the process of doing.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I should say that the doing that comes from being is different from the doing that comes from our sanskaras. I don't know if that's clear, but when being is the doer, you can do a lot of different things, but you don't feel like you're doing anything. Whereas if the sanskaras are the prompter, then you are stuck having to complete. You're incomplete until you finish the job, so to speak. Yeah. Wow, this is beautiful. I mean, the richness of experience among that we could all share we could do this for the next 700 years until Baba comes.
Might I suggest a moment of silence?
Okay, any, no further thing? Okay. Jai Baba.
Everyone is free to unmute themselves as they wish.
Yeah. Wow, what a gift this book is.
Jeff, I kind of wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So about this whole thing with completeness and how it might interface with naturalness. that, you know, I mean, I remember when I first went to India and meeting the Mandali and Erich in particular, that what really convinced me that Baba was how natural the Mandali were, that there wasn't any sense of their being holier than thou or anything like that. They were just very loving, but absolutely natural and not all the same by any stretch. And that they're, you know, and when I lived in India and at Marazad that one time for a month, I mean, their personalities were very distinct and different to me. And they weren't always, again, they weren't always just sweetness and light, exactly. They were, you know, they were people. And yet they were so naturally those people. And do you think that interfaces with this idea of completeness?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Erich used to say over and over again over the years, quoting Baba, to be natural is most godly. Not to be spiritual is most godly, or not to be worldly accomplished. To be natural is most godly, which is meaning to be deeply human is most godly, and it's within our reach. It's not some high plane of consciousness. It's we all know what it is. We had it as children, and as time goes on, we'll have it more and more with Baba, I would say, where you just don't have to make all those efforts to be somebody other than just yourself.
Do you ever feel like Baba gives you something and if you share it, then it goes away?
You know, I think of that, I mean, in myself, when I have those kind of thoughts, I think I'm being a little superstitious.
I don't know.
I mean, you can know if you're showing off, and that doesn't quite have the right ring. But
Right.
sharing what you experience the way children do, I don't find that it goes away.
All right, that's good to know.
You know, because what you shared, I mean, what Stu shared, you guys shared, I mean, that's like feeds the heart. You know, you might say, well, I shouldn't share these things, but these things inspire and affirm that, hey, this can be done.
All right, then I'll tell this thing.
Yeah.
Recently, I just got this thing. You know how you say Baba's name and then you'll be going along and you forgot and then you say Baba's name again. And there's something joyous when you remember again. So, you know, I may go for hours and not say Baba's name, and then I'll be walking to the clothes washer and say Meher Baba, Meher Baba. Anyway, recently I got this thing that he's calling me before I call him, if you will. In other words, he's saying my name. And then I get to say, that's how I remember, because he says my name first to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my new thing now. Every time I remember Baba's name, I think, how sweet, he just said my name to me.
Yeah. No, those are real things, beautiful things, and they're kind of tailor-made to each one. You know, one time I probably shared this. I on one of my trips to India, I said Baba's name inwardly the whole time. You know, from leaving Myrtle Beach to all the way to Mehrabad. And then on my last day, as I was leaving a month later, Baba woke me up at 3 a.m. and he said, I'm translating what he flashed to me in a millisecond into English, but he said, all these weeks you've been remembering me and saying my name so diligently, but you seem to forget that I'm here listening. You know, In other words, when we call him, it's like he responds. I felt I was kind of emanating his name, but hey, you keep calling me. Well, remember that I'm there when you call me. It kind of, I think Baba's name kind of dissolves some of the veils. It's not like Baba comes. It dissolves some of the veils between ourself and Baba so that we actually come closer to him by calling his name.
I want to say
That's beautiful. Jeff, I remember you said this before. Like if I say Jeff, you respond in similar way. When you say Baba, he responds, and that's very helpful. And to Ruth's question of sharing, I had the similar feeling for a long, long time. In fact, until Effort and Grace started, I never really shared any of what I felt inside with anyone. I didn't feel like I felt something pulling me back, but over time, Baba has told me just to share it and not be worried about, self-pride or anything like that. And, listening to everyone sharing here really helps me for sure. And I think it's the same for everyone. When we listen to other people, it really helps. Like everything that Jeff says, it's super, super helpful. When saying Baba's name, he's here to listen. He's there listening, those kind of things.
Yeah, no, it's really, all these things are beautiful, like interventions of Baba's grace in our lives. And it's wonderful when we get to hear how his grace has intervened in the lives of others,
That's kind of what that's kind of what it feels like, is that, I can't love, Baba loves me so I can love him. It's his love that allows me to strive towards to love him.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of what it felt like when I thought about him. I wouldn't be able to call his name if he wasn't prompting me.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it was like he was saying my name first, prompting me, and then I would say his name. So it was just such a sweet thought. It just always brings this deep sense of gratitude that Baba could even say my name.
Yeah, for you. Say his name for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. No, these are lovely things.
in this avataric age, it's a whole new ball game. From my perspective, the awareness that it's obvious with Baba lovers on a lot of things, and it harkens back to a reversal of the old adage of those who know don't say, and those who say don't know. And Bob has turned that upside down. He's given out so many heretofore what we call mysteries. He's unveiled all these mysteries that at least the Western world, to a great degree, has been, submerged under the isms that have permeated the lives of all of us here in the Western part of the world, where it's no longer that. Where they used to lock somebody in a monastery that had a dream like Ruth had, and that was it. You had no choice. The power was so strong. So to share our stories, our dreams, and whatever, and to me doesn't lessen them, because for some reason there's a greater enrichment in the fact that the more you are able to share, the more that particular sharing grows, because you never really get all of the feelings and the thoughts and remembrances of that particular story in one fell swoop. So I just don't. I feel like we should share. That we need to share.
Yeah.
This is a legacy.
I understand, but there is also that idea about the fire burning within and not let the smoke escape your lips.
Again, we're getting back into centuries of being programmed to think that that's what should that we should feel that way, and I don't buy it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think your heart knows, or your intuition knows, this is a time to share this thing, and another time it's not a time to share.
Well,
It depends on what you're feeling in the atmosphere.
That's. I wouldn't share it anywhere else. That's for sure.
I remember you saying, I don't know if it was here or in one of your late night chats, where that because Baba didn't want to have any create any religion, that what we're doing here is like, it's a different, it isn't an ism. It's just that we're creating the cell, the cell, cell from which the Baba body is generating by all of us, by us coming together and then sharing and participating in Baba together rather than in a religious setting. Can you remember what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, I remember. This is very significant. Erich was someone asked Erich, is Baba going to become a religion? And Erich said Baba was adamant this time that it not become a religion. And the person said, how can we keep it from becoming a religion? And Erich said, if his lovers were to get together in small groups and share their mystical experiences, it could be averted. He used the term, this is back in the early 70s, he used the word mystical experiences, but your inner experiences, personal experiences with Baba, it can be averted because you can't make a religion out of all of our different experiences. You can't make a dogma out of it, or a doctrine, or ways that you have to remember Baba. I mean, there are so many different ways that, it's not going to work. So this keeps it very, well, keeps it one-on-one with Baba. We're a collection of people that are one-on-one with Baba, if you can imagine that. I know when I went the first Monday night meeting in New York back in the 60s, and I was not really for groups and religion and all that kind of stuff, but I look back, it was like a room full of independents. They all had their own kind of original relationship with Baba. And there wasn't any hierarchy, and this one's more important than that one, or, it was very clean. Yeah.
At your follicles of hair.
What's that?
Imagine that you're a follicle of hair on his head.
Yeah. All different. Now, there's a diminishing follicles of hair in some.
The thing that also helps me is, dedicating it to Baba, whatever we are sharing, is to avoid, to the point that Ruth was making about the smoke. And I think the reason Baba said that is so that you don't have this pride built in you, it is me. But if you think of, the thing that helps me is, before I start the meeting, I just ask Baba to speak through me. And after I'm done with the meeting, I say, Baba, it is you who spoke through me. And just dedicating it to Baba will just, clean up anything that's left over.
Yeah, no, I do the same. Yep.
Can I read a little bit of a quote? I have to go
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
This may be, along the lines of what Ruth was asking also, or saying. This is a quote from Baba. Your act of help or word of comfort supplies to others whatever might be lacking in them. And through their thoughts of gratitude and goodwill, you will actually receive more than you give.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Yeah. And Baba does say, to share your experience with Baba so people get a feeling of how you see Baba. That's perfectly legitimate, so to speak, Baba said. So they can see how you experience how you feel about Baba. And I find that the way other people feel about Baba are ways that I can adopt myself. If it works, I go for it.
I just took a moment to look up a quote, and we're talking about stories and being enriched by a story. Brene Brown said, this is loosely stated, empathy is the antidote to shame. So when people feel shameful about something, to open up about it and share it is an antidote to shame. Or somehow related to the empathy being the disarming component to shame.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of empathy as one of the highest forms of love.
So Jeff, so I've said before different times that little things happen that are just very coincidental. I'm wondering, and so I was just thinking about it. It's kind of like a little Baba wink. I wonder, would you consider that, or would people consider that the lifting of the veil within in a different way, not so. Not such a big way, but little things like when you run into someone and they say the exact thing that you are interested in, or like last week when I was when you were telling the wolf story and it was in the books I was reading, things like that.
I think Baba, now this is just my feeling, I think Baba just loves doing all these little nice touches, little coincidences, little flash of insight, a little. That is his entertainment, to see. It's like hiding Easter eggs for kids, and to see them running around and finding them and excited with their little baskets, Well, I feel this is his entertainment and fun and creation, is to do all these little loving touches in our lives and to see how we respond. And they can be, like I say, it can be coincidence, it can be words that come at a valuable time, or running into somebody that you have a deep connection with. Oh, a great many opening a book and it's just the quote that you need for that time in your life when you're going through a difficult experience. All of that, I think Baba Monty used to use this phrase from time to time. You have to see things through Baba's eyes. She used to use that. I mean, as if we could do. You have to see things through Baba's eyes. What does he enjoy?
Jeff, I also like to think about it that it's like he's winking at us, reminding us that he's in charge of all of it. He runs the whole thing. And it's just like each time there's a synchronicity like that. It's like this little reminder, like, I'm doing it all.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it and kind of
Yeah.
a little.
No, it's a lovely thing. Just like I say, all the little treasures that he drops, Easter eggs that he hides in different places, and we stumble upon them.
Jeff, what did Darwin say again about being a nobody? That you mentioned it earlier tonight.
Yeah, this is a sooner or later. Darwin was always very good when he would say sooner or later. You know, that was a lot of compassion in that. You know, it's like instead of, you know, you'll discover this sometime. But sooner or later, you discover you're nobody, comma, and that is not an unhappy discovery. And he would have kind of an enigmatic smile on his face when he would say that.
So what did he mean by that?
That you don't have to become a spiritual somebody, and you don't have to become a worldly somebody. A nobody doesn't have to make any impression. And then what happens is then love guides you because you're kind of out of the way. Love becomes the doer.
I wonder sometimes how Gandhi is seeing himself as a street sweeper in England right now.
Well, you probably got through that a lifetime already.
Okay.
But, yeah. I think with his,
being a street sweeper, I wonder how the ego is affected there.
I think Gandhi would have no problem with doing anything, you know, in this world. But I think Baba said because he took on certain impressions, that lifetime as a street sweeper in London, I think it was, would work off some of the impressions that were laid on him.
I wonder how desire laden he is or was as a street sweeper, lonely street sweeper in London. I wonder if he has the burning desires in the back of his mind.
I think he would. I mean, I heard that he was going to be one of the 5 perfect masters when Baba comes again. So I think he's gotten beyond most of the desires. You know. Yeah.
So, speaking of perfect masters, do we have perfect masters now, ever since Baba dropped his body?
Yeah. They are here.
Did he name them at all?
No, although I think he gave I think he gave Dr. Barucha maybe the name of some, I don't know, but one was in Syria, one was in maybe 3 in India, and I don't know, that I can't remember. But the thing is that the perfect masters, Baba is the center stage for the next 100 or 200 years. And so the perfect masters, he's the protagonist, and they are unknown really to the world at large. They have their followings and their disciples, but they're not known very much in to the world at large, because Baba is the main the most important personality, you might say, on the stage of the world. Cindy, anything from upstate New York?
Well, my mom fell and had a very, very nasty fall.
Wow.
And she's in the hospital. And she's going to have to really fight hard to be able to walk again. And it's been an interesting time with Baba because throughout this whole COVID thing, I've kept myself and the people around me particularly isolated to try to keep her safe, because she's 94 years old.
Yeah.
And now she's basically in one of the most dangerous places she can be in.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, and in some ways, it's been easier because now I just have to hand it over to Baba. It's completely out of my control at this point.
so you were having to take care of her. You were
No, I don't mean in that respect.
Yeah.
And it was actually easier during the COVID period because I wasn't taking care of her as much, but it was more sort of the psychological sense of having to control how much I'm struggling for words here. Like I had to control every interaction with everyone because I couldn't possibly bring COVID into her house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, this is like kind of overwhelming in the sense that I can't control this. She's in the hospital and
completely out of your hands.
Right.
on a physical level. Yeah. My God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And are you able to see her, or do you have to be behind a window pane?
I was able to see her up until 2 days ago. When she was in the actual hospital portion. They've now moved her to a transitional unit, and I'm not able to go in.
Wow, it's incredible.
Which is hard. She'll be there for 3 weeks, and
yeah,
they seem very loving, very decent people. But it's hard to trust.
Yeah.
This is, I think this is Baba's. It's out of my hands. The whole thing. I'm clearly, I'm keeping contact with people and they're calling me and.
Yeah. No,
But,
what a lot today,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It's just this sense of, I feel like I've kept myself so careful during this whole period, and Baba has just sort of dropped both of us in the soup, and it's like, okay,
yeah.
now you trust. Now
Yeah.
you trust in me. Before you were trusting in yourself.
Yeah.
And now you trust in me.
Boy, moved
Basically.
it into a whole different level. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this is.
Yeah.
I know we have some people in Myrtle Beach, and the only way you can see them is through a window. Wave to them. I mean, that's what a way to spend a lot of part of your
Yeah. I mean, I actually feel lucky that I was able to see her in the hospital. That, I mean,
yeah.
A lot of people were not. So,
yeah.
So I am practicing gratitude here. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah. Thank you. Well, I guess unless anybody has something to bring up, Frada, you still doing all right there in California? Ah. Oop. Gotta put your sound on.
Oops.
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been behind the curtains. I've been going through a recovery rehabilitation phase myself. Had a bad neck injury. Had radiating pain through my arms. My arms were almost disabled for quite a few weeks. I couldn't do a whole lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, still recovering, doing much better, going through physiotherapy.
What, like
All Baba is doing, unique experiences. I couldn't touch my laptop, any of the gadgets, just reading Baba books, spending time with Baba as much as I can.
Yeah, beautiful. I see Namrata from time to time.
Yeah.
At the gatherings, and your mom, and every once in a while your dad peeps around.
Yeah.
Into the camera.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they log in every once in a while for the meetings. They love that they can still be in touch even though they're just stuck at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's Myrtle Beach? There's a lot of news with a lot of the weather alerts
Yeah, we
in the
may,
center.
no, yeah, the weather hasn't been too bad, although there was a tornado that came through briefly. But I mean, I'm the center is, they're contemplating on how to open it, so that's something that's in the near future. Yeah, after.
That's October the 3rd, the meeting,
Yeah.
the Saturday, and they're going to do a presentation, right?
Yeah. So good. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I guess Katie and Jake, they're off there, and Nasreen and Payam.
We're lovingly eating dinner and listening to this chat at the same time.
Oh, good. And
Yes,
Jolie
Jeff.
and
I am here, Jeff.
Hi, Nasreen.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, we miss you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be on later on tonight. But
Oh, I'm
Nasreen
glad
has
you are.
she has the most beautiful voice, Nasreen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And
Thank
she
you.
remembers Baba through everything.
Yes, of course. I try.
Yeah. And Payam up there, that's her daughter.
Jai Baba, thank
Yeah,
you.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful
Yeah.
share as always.
Yeah.
Yes. I look
Well,
forward to these Sundays.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I guess, and Dartha and Tom, you guys look very relaxed. That's the way the end of the spiritual path is, you're just laying back on a sofa and they wheel you right into realization. Good, great to see you.
Yeah.
Yep.
To see you, Jeff. These are so important. These
Yeah, I miss seeing you guys and having lunch with you.
Oh.
I hope that happens
within the next decade.
while we're still alive. And Lanita.
What?
Lanita's right there. Good.
I was here.
Yeah.
I was here in the dark, but I was listening everything and
Yeah.
enjoying
I
all
saw
the
you.
sharing.
Yeah.
And I was cooking dinner, so I didn't want to make a lot of noise. I was
Yeah.
just my sound, shot my video, and I was just listening. It's
Yeah,
amazing,
beautiful.
amazing sharing.
And Marion,
Thank
are
you.
you still around? We see you a couple of boxes.
Yes, yes, this is Marion, and I say goodbye as I got such a beautiful, my needs met. And I've learned from being with Baba, once I uncover specifically what my needs are and use words, the power of the word and that vibration, they're met. And that was to link up with more like-minded people.
Oh, yeah.
And because that's missing some here where I am, and just to sit here entranced. So I thank you all very much. I just am grateful to Baba in
Good.
bringing me into this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marion. Yeah. Well, and Cindy, she's probably having dinner now. Anyway, I'm gonna have some dinner, folks. So,
Thank
Jay
you.
Baba, Ann
Jay
and
Baba,
Rob.
everybody.
Jai
Yeah.
Baba, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
Jay
Thank
Baba.
you, everybody.
You, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Cindy, give my best to your mother. Where she go? Okay.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Good night.
Hey, Baba.
Bye
Hi,
bye.
Robin.